The leaders who navigate what's coming, not just this crisis, but the next ones, the meta crisis, the world that's in this in-between stage where old systems are breaking down. What's known is no longer reliable. The crises we haven't even named yet. Welcome to The Pivot, where we explore the shifts that open new possibilities for how we see, act, and navigate the world. Right now, so much is changing, faster than we can make sense of. It's easy to feel unmoored, caught between an unraveling past and a future that's still, taking shape. But there are those who can already see what's emerging, beyond the noise, beyond the confusion. In each episode, I sit down with visionaries, thinkers, practitioners, and pioneers who are not just imagining the future, but actually living it. They're sensing what's next and mapping the way forward. So if you're wondering how to navigate this shifting landscape, how to stay grounded, adapt, and even thrive, you're in the right place. This is not about quick fixes or the 7 steps to be more effective. This is about asking the right questions of yourself, of each other, of life, learning how to make sense of this changing terrain and how to move in it. You don't have to figure it out alone. I've got you covered. This is The Pivot. Welcome. Hi, it's just me this week. I want to talk about something that's happening right now. It's real time. This is March 19th, 2026. And this isn't in the financial briefings that I'm going to talk about, but you've definitely read this. So by now you know of what's going on in the world, the Strait of Hormuz, Operation Epic Fury, crude above $100 a barrel, the down nearly 2,500 points in 2 weeks. The IEA is calling it the largest supply disruption in the history of global oil market. And the former chief of oil markets said something last week that I haven't set aside yet in my mind. And that is, we've never been in this situation before. Not one of them comes close. Never. Not 1979, not the Gulf War, not Ukraine, not one. Now, there are people covering this, and especially the financial architecture of this crisis, brilliantly. So I'm not going to go into that. That's not my scope. But what I want to talk about is what's happening inside the rooms where the decisions are being made, because that story often doesn't come out. I want to zoom in on that because it's relevant to the pivot. Here's what I keep hearing from my client systems leaders across Europe and the US this week. They pick up a phone, they read the headline, they immediately reach for their plan, their map, their guidance system. And the map doesn't cover where they are. That's the moment I want to focus in on. That's the moment I want to sit with, because what happens next tells you everything about the kind of leader someone actually is. I want to zero in on a pattern here. Most leaders have one instinct when the map runs out, the plan's not working. What do? They work harder on it. They come up with more scenarios. They bring in more advisors, push for more data, push the analysis until clarity emerges. And here's what I'm watching in real time. This move, which has always worked before, that's producing something unexpected, not clarity, more noise, more problems. So more conflicting opinion, the experts at war, and underneath it all, this cognitive weight that has absolutely nowhere to go. And I want to name that weight because it's not a weakness. It's information. The paralysis that I'm seeing, it's not a failure of intelligence. It's not a failure of courage. It's a collision between the kind of situation they're in and the kind of tools they have. It's what happens when you're holding a map and when someone asks you where you are in the wide open ocean, the instinct is to grip that map, grab that map even harder, right? Or to find a better map, or to call to someone who has a map. the last thing that the instinct says, that last automatic response is to put the map down, to learn to navigate by feel, by the stars, by the current. But that's the actual move. I want to tell you about a leader, but before I do, I want to be perfectly clear with you. I'm bringing a composite, both for confidentiality reasons and it works better, I find. I'm sharing from several clients that are navigating the crisis right now. The learning is key. The details are illustrative, I think. But the interior moves are real. This is not a composite. Those are real. And I've watched this happen multiple times over my career. And in these past weeks, with the meta crisis really heating up and accelerating, I've definitely seen it across multiple people. So let me call her Isabel. She's a CFO, mid-sized European industrial group, 14 years at the company. The person the CEO calls first when something breaks. A couple of years back, she came to me not because she was failing, she was succeeding by every metric that mattered. She came because something had quietly stopped working. And she couldn't quite name it. She said to me, I keep solving problems, but I feel like I'm solving the wrong ones. That was the key sentence. That was the doorway. Before our work together, whenever a crisis hit, Isabel led the way she'd been trained. She gathered the data. She ran the scenarios. She assembled the right people and she drove towards a decision with a disciplined urgency that made her exceptional. And it worked in the sense that decisions got made, actions got taken. The company kept moving. But something in the quality of those decisions was starting to nag at her. It was starting to bother her. She noticed she was managing the anxiety in the room by projecting a certainty she didn't fully feel. Some confuse that for gravitas, by the way. And she noticed her best instincts, that felt sense that something wasn't adding up, were getting overridden by the pressure to decide. They were being suboptimized. And the pressure to decide, to move, to act, that was driving it. So somewhere underneath all of that, there was a quiet signal saying, wait. And something there didn't fit for her. So she was struggling with this feeling and yeah, something was off. When she did get that tremor, that little gut, niggle of wait or something's off, she'd never really learned to trust that signal. She'd never, actually before that, had even learned to hear it clearly above the noise. Now, come to the present. Now picture Isabel in the morning of March 1st, 2026. Hormuz closed, crude spiking. Her board wants answers she doesn't have, and they want it now. Here's what's different. 6 o'clock in the morning, before all the calls begin, Isabel makes coffee. She sits, she opens a journal, and she writes one question at the top of the page. What is this situation actually asking of me? Not what my role requires, but what does this moment require? She writes for 20 minutes, just free flow, not analysis, not struggling to find answers. What she's actually worried about that isn't in the numbers, what her gut is saying underneath the noise, that's what was coming out. Fast forward to the board call at 9 o'clock. The Dow has lost 2,400 points in 2 weeks. Iran's supreme leader has declared the strait closure will continue as a, quote, tool to pressure the enemy, close quote. The board wants a position. They want it now. The pressure in the room is enormous. The old Isabel would have delivered one. Confident, crisp, slightly more certain than she really felt. But this time, Isabel says something different. She says, I want to give you my honest read. Here's what I know. Here's what I don't know. And here's what I think the distinction matters right now. Silence for a while. She said you could count it. Then the chairman, 40 years in the business, says, that's the most useful thing I've heard all week. and the whole room exhales all at once. And for the first time in the call, people start saying what they actually think. Now, halfway through that call, Isabel noticed the head of procurement had gone unusually quiet and stayed quiet, not disengaged. It was clear he was chewing on something, processing something. So she stopped the conversation. She said, Stefan, you've gone quiet. What are you sitting with? And what comes out is he shares a shipping contract renewal coming due in 6 weeks with a carrier whose the entire Gulf routing is now compromised. And nobody had flagged that. That then becomes the first concrete priority of the meeting. Now, the old Isabel would have kept driving towards a strategic picture. This Isabel reads the room as a data source. So by the end of that Monday, pressure to hedge aggressively, lock in energy contracts, execute a currency position, move fast. Isabel actually comes out and says, I want to wait 48 hours. Not because I'm uncertain about our exposure, I'm not. Because the situation is still developing in ways that could affect how we hedge. Not just whether we do, but how. Somebody pushes back, she holds the line. The urgency we're all feeling right now is real. But I want to make sure it's the situation driving our timing, not our discomfort with not knowing. So they wait. On Wednesday, reports emerged that Oman's bypass ports have been struck by drones. Fuel storage damaged. One of the hedging strategies that they were considering would have been significantly more expensive. Those 48 hours had mattered. Isabel didn't become less decisive. Let's be clear. She still runs the scenarios. She still reads the briefings. What changed is the quality of the attention she brings before and beneath all of that. She has a relationship now with her own interior as a source of signal, not just noise to be managed. How many of us confuse that, right? Like we get this interior, this inner disruption, turmoil, queasiness, and we just think it's a distraction, something we have to manage, when it's actual intelligence. So that source, signal, and her team feels it. In fact, one of her directors said, I don't know what it is, but I actually feel like I can say what I think in these calls now. Now, that's not a communication technique. That's what happens when a leader stops performing certainty and becomes genuinely present of the situation instead of managing it from behind a role. So what is all of this really about? The Hormuz crisis will resolve one way or another. What won't resolve is the kind of world that produced it. You know, the IEA used to run war game scenarios, simulating major disruptions of catastrophes to the oil supply. What I'm reading is they never seriously considered the strait closing because it was unthinkable. It was unimaginable. That's worth sitting with. The unthinkable is no longer theoretical. The leaders who navigate what's coming, not just this crisis, but the next ones, the ones we haven't even named yet, those leaders aren't going to be the ones with the best models. The models are going to keep getting surprised. They're going to be the ones who have done enough interior work, who genuinely stay present when the ground shifts. They don't lose that. And they listen. They listen to their interior. I'll leave you with the question I've been sitting with all week, not a rhetorical one, a real one. Things have been getting hard. And when this week got hard, what did you actually reach for? Was it the map, the plan? And whatever you reach for, was it truly the most useful thing available to you? That's the navigation worth developing. I'm Dave Schoaf. This is The Pivot. Thanks for being here. Go well. And if you like the podcast, please subscribe. and include a rating. These reviews make a difference. And if you know anyone who might benefit from understanding the times we're in and the need for the pivot, please forward it to them. As always, thank you for tuning in to The Pivot, where we meet at the edges, we explore the in-between, and we stay with what's unfolding. Until next time, keep listening, keep feeling, keep exploring, and keep finding your way. This is Dave Schoaf at The Pivot. Go well.